The German shepherd was growling at the envelope before Callum Reid even touched it. Flint never growled at mail. Callum stood at the kitchen counter, still in his work clothes, flannel shirt dusted with sawdust from the carpentry shop, and watched his service dog's hackles rise along his spine. For years together, through panic attacks and nightmares and the slow crawl back to something resembling normal life, and he'd never seen Flint react to paper. Easy, boy. Callum reached for the certified letter. The return address made his stomach drop. Pinnacle Trust Bank, legal department. Flint's growl deepened. Callum tore it open. Notice of default and intent to foreclose. The words hit like shrapnel. Failure to remit mortgage payments for six consecutive months. Total arrears of $9,847.32. 30 days to cure default or face foreclosure proceedings. That's impossible. His voice came out strangled. The kitchen walls pressed inward. His pulse hammered. The same sensation from Kandahar when ambushes came from nowhere, when the world collapsed into chaos without warning. Flint was already moving, pressing his solid weight against Callum's legs. Train pressure, grounding technique. But this time the dog kept glancing back at the envelope on the counter, ears pinned flat. Breathe. 4 in. Hold 4 out. Cal. Marin appeared in the doorway, reading his face instantly. 12 years of marriage, 6 before deployment, 6 after, had taught her to decode his silences. What is it? He handed her the letter, without speaking. Her face went white. 6 months? Cal, we haven't missed a payment. It's autopay. The money comes out every month. Callum was already at the desk, yanking open the filing cabinet. His hands shook as he spread bank statements across the surface. Marin stood beside him, and there they were. Monthly withdrawals of $1,641.22, every single one marked mortgage payment. Pinnacle Trust. January, February, March, April, May, June. His finger traced each line. Every payment. The money left our account. Then where did it go? Marin's voice cracked. This house, Cal, your father. I know. The words came out harsh. He softened his tone. Dad left us this house. It's the only thing he had after the medical bills. I'm not losing it. But helplessness crept through his chest. You couldn't shoot a bank. Couldn't call in air support against bureaucracy. The system was a different battlefield. One where he'd always felt outgunned. Behind them, Flint whined. Not his usual alert sound, but something different. Urgent. We'll call the bank tomorrow, Marin said, though her optimism sounded hollow. There's been a mistake. We have proof. Callum nodded, but his gut told him it wouldn't be that simple. That night, sleep was impossible. Callum lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling of the bedroom he'd grown up in. This house held every memory of his father, the man who'd taught him to swing a hammer, to measure twice and cut once, the man who'd worked double shifts at the mill for 30 years, who'd never miss a mortgage payment until cancer ate through their savings in 6 months. The house had been nearly paid off when his father died. Just $40,000 remaining on a property worth 3 times that. Callum had taken over the payments without hesitation, the only inheritance that mattered. And now some faceless bank was trying to take it. Beside him, Marin's breathing was uneven. She wasn't asleep either. In the corner, Flint lay on his bed, eyes reflecting moonlight through the curtains. Watching. Always watching. What if they don't believe us? Marin whispered. Callum didn't answer. He didn't have one. His mind drifted to the war, not firefights or explosions, but quieter moments when everything seemed lost, when mission parameters changed without warning. He'd learned then that sometimes the enemy wasn't the one shooting at you. Sometimes it was the chaos itself, the feeling that forces beyond your control were deciding your fate. Flint had been his anchor through all of it, a military working dog washout due to minor hip dysplasia, unsuitable for active duty but perfect for service work. The VA had matched them, and the dog had given him a reason to get out of bed, a purpose beyond nightmares. Now, lying in his childhood home, Callum reached down. Flint was there instantly, cold nose pressing into his palm. We'll figure this out, boy. The dog's tail thumped once, a sound of absolute faith Callum wished he could feel. 30 days. That's all they had. 30 days to prove the impossible. To fight a system designed to grind people like him into dust. To save the only piece of his father he had left. Outside, wind rattled the old windows his father had always meant to replace. Callum closed his eyes and tried to remember his father's voice, the way he'd always said Reese men didn't quit, didn't back down. But his father had never faced a bank with lawyers and the power to take everything. As exhaustion pulled him towards sleep, Flint shifted from his bed to the floor beside Callum, positioning himself as a barrier between his handler and the door, an old protective instinct that never quite turned off. In the morning, they would call the bank. They would start fighting. But tonight, in the darkness of the house his father built, Callum Reid felt more afraid than he'd ever been in combat. Because this time, he wasn't just fighting for his own life. He was fighting for home. Flint's discovery. A week crawled by, each day tightening the knot in Callum's chest. The lawyer he'd hired confirmed the nightmare. Pinnacle Trust's records showed no mortgage payments received for 6 months, despite Callum's clear bank withdrawals. Someone's intercepting the money before it ever reaches the bank, the lawyer said, her voice grim. It's digital theft, Mr. Reese. This is bigger than a clerical error. Callum hung up, feeling the ground shift beneath him. Systematic, targeted. Someone was siphoning payments, maybe not just from him. Marin's face was drawn. She tried to stay hopeful for him, but the tension seeped into every word, every silence. Flint paced the house, restless, picking up on anxiety. That night, Callum sat at the kitchen table, sifting through folders and screenshots, searching for patterns. The clock struck midnight. Marin had gone to bed hours ago, but Callum couldn't sleep. Flint sat at his feet, head up, ears alert. Suddenly, the dog stiffened, staring toward the basement door. A low, urgent whine. What is it, boy? Callum followed as Flint trotted to the door and pawed at it, nails scraping the wood. Flint rarely went down there. He never liked the furnace's metallic rattle or the musty air. But tonight, he was insistent, pressing his nose to the crack and whining. Callum grabbed a flashlight and followed the dog down the creaking steps. The air was thick with dust and memories. Flint moved with purpose, nose low, tracking something invisible. He stopped at the far wall, where a rusted pipe snaked behind old shelving and a battered furnace hummed. Flint began scratching furiously at a spot near the baseboard, ears pinned, tail rigid. He barked, a sharp, clipped sound that sent adrenaline surging through Callum. Easy, Flint. He moved the shelves aside, heart pounding. Flint nosed at a loose brick, then sat back, looking up expectantly. Callum wedged his fingers into the crack and pulled. The brick slid out, revealing a small, dust-covered tin. Inside, a USB drive and a battered notebook. Callum's breath caught. He flipped open the notebook. Names, dates, addresses, painstakingly handwritten. Some he recognized as neighbors who'd lost their homes recently. Words leaped out. Deed transfer, false signatures, escrow siphon. Jesus, he whispered. This is a list. He turned the USB drive over in his hand, plugged it into his laptop upstairs. Encrypted files, all of them. He tried every password he could think of, but nothing worked. Flint sat beside him, eyes watchful. Callum stared at the ledger, mind racing. This was organized, coordinated, a full-blown property theft scheme, not just a glitch targeting him. The notebook detailed a network, a rogue IT contractor, a handful of fake shell companies. Signatures forged, payments rerouted, families forced out, homes resold at a profit. Flint nudged Callum's arm, as if to remind him he wasn't alone. The dog's military training had saved Callum before, detecting explosives in Afghanistan. Now, Flint's instincts had uncovered the first real lead at home. Hope flickered, fragile but real. Maybe they could fight this. Maybe others could too. But the clock was still ticking. 21 days until the eviction deadline. Callum looked at Flint, gratitude swelling in his chest. You did good, boy. We're not done yet. Flint's tail thumped once, solid and sure. The lawyer's words echoed in Callum's mind. Without decrypting that USB, the ledger could be dismissed as forgery. We need corroboration. The pressure mounted. Callum's sleep fractured into jagged pieces. Nightmares of explosions, of failing his unit, now twisted with visions of losing his home. He'd wake gasping, drenched in sweat. Flint was always there, climbing onto the bed, pressing his full weight against Callum's chest. Deep pressure therapy. The dog's warmth and steady breathing pulled him back to reality. Marin had started packing. Quietly, methodically, wrapping dishes in newspaper. She didn't say much anymore. The hope in her eyes had dimmed to resignation. "We need a backup plan, Callum," she said one morning, her voice flat. 14 days. The tension between them stretched thin. Every conversation felt like walking on glass. Isla sensed it too. The 7-year-old had grown quieter, watching her parents with worried eyes. One afternoon, she followed Flint down to the basement. Callum heard her voice, bright and curious. "What you looking for, Flint?" He found them by the furnace. Flint was pawing at a different section of wall, behind an old paint can. Isla crouched beside him, giggling. "He's being a detective again, Daddy." Callum's heart clenched. "Isla, come upstairs, sweetheart." But Flint barked, that same sharp, insistent sound. Callum moved the paint can. Another loose brick. Behind it, a manila envelope, yellowed with age. Inside, photographs. Grainy but clear enough. A man in a suit, Vernon Hastings, the bank manager, standing outside a coffee shop, handing documents to another man. The second man Callum recognized immediately. Marcus Trent, Hastings' brother-in-law. A property developer. The dates on the photos matched entries in the ledger. Callum's pulse quickened. He flipped through more images. Hastings and Trent at construction sites, shaking hands in front of luxury condo renderings. Properties Callum recognized. Foreclosed homes, now demolished or under development. "They're in it together," he whispered. Flint sat back, tail wagging slightly. His nose had detected something. Chemical signatures in the wall materials, residue from whoever had hidden these photos years ago. Military detection training, repurposed for a different kind of mission. Callum photographed everything, hands shaking. This was the proof. Hastings wasn't just complicit. He was orchestrating it. Families forced out, properties seized, then flipped to his brother-in-law for luxury development. A perfect, profitable loop. But 14 days remained. The USB was still encrypted. The photos were damning. But would they be enough? Upstairs, Marin stood in the kitchen, surrounded by half-packed boxes. She looked at Callum, searching his face. "Did you find something?" He nodded, holding up the envelope. Flint did. Again. For the first time in days, something flickered in her expression. Not quite hope, but not defeat either. Isla hugged Flint's neck. "Good boy," she whispered. Callum knelt beside them both, one hand on his daughter's shoulder, the other on Flint's head. The clock was ticking. The conspiracy was unraveling. But the final proof, the key to everything, was still locked away. 14 days left. The doorbell rang. Sharp, insistent. Callum's hand hovered over the doorknob. Through the frosted glass, Vernon Hastings' silhouette stood perfectly still, a predator waiting. Behind Callum, Marin clutched her phone, 911 already dialed but not yet sent. Dev quickly closed his laptop, the decrypted files safely copied. Flint positioned himself at Callum's side, body tense, eyes locked on the door. The dog's training kicked in, threat assessment protective stance. His growl was low, controlled, dangerous. Callum opened the door halfway. "Mr. Hastings, it's midnight." Vernon Hastings smiled, the practiced, empty smile of someone accustomed to getting what they wanted. "Mr. Reid, I apologize for the late hour. I was driving by and saw your lights on. I thought we might have a conversation. Off the record." "About what?" "About making the situation easier for everyone." Hastings' eyes flicked past Callum, scanning the room. They landed on Dev's laptop. The photograph still spread across the table. His smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. Callum didn't move from the doorway. "We have nothing to discuss." Hastings' tone shifted, still polite, but with an edge. Mr. Reid, foreclosure is a painful process. I've seen families tear themselves apart fighting the inevitable, but there are alternatives. I could arrange a short sale. You'd walk away with something. Your daughter wouldn't have to watch her home get auctioned off. You mean I'd walk away while you sell it to your brother-in-law for pennies on the dollar? Hastings' expression froze. I don't know what you're implying. Yes, you do. Callum stepped aside, gesturing to the table. Come in. Let's talk about what we found. Hastings hesitated, then entered. His eyes swept over photographs, the ledger, the USB drive still plugged into Dev's laptop. His face drained of color. Marin stood, arms crossed. We know everything. The falsified loan documents, the backdated foreclosures, the wire transfers to Trent Development. Dozens of families, Mr. Hastings. Not just us. Hastings recovered quickly, straightening his coat. Those are serious accusations. Do you have any idea what you're suggesting? Slander carries legal consequences. Dev spoke up, his voice calm. It's not slander if it's true, and we have proof. Every file from that USB drive, encrypted by someone who thought they were clever. They weren't. Hastings' jaw tightened. Where did you get that drive? From the wall of this house, Callum said. Hidden by someone who knew what you were doing. Someone who documented everything before they disappeared. You're talking about David Mercer. Hastings' voice was ice. A disgruntled employee who embezzled funds and fled the state. Anything he left behind is the fantasy of a criminal. Then why are you here at midnight? Marin challenged. Silence. Flint's growl deepened. The dog had moved closer to Hastings, reading the man's body language. Elevated heart rate, shallow breathing, micro-expressions of fear masked by arrogance. Hastings took a step back. Call off your dog. He's a service dog, Callum said. He responds to threats. Hastings' mask cracked. You have no idea what you're interfering with. This isn't just about your house. There are people involved, investors, city officials, who won't let some washed-up Marine in his mutt destroy years of work. Washed up. Callum's voice dropped. I served 2 tours. Lost friends. Came home with scars you can't see. And you think you can intimidate me? Hastings sneered. You're nothing. A broken soldier clinging to a house you can't afford, with a wife who's already given up and a dog trained to lick your wounds. You think you're a hero? You're a liability. The room went silent. Marin's face flushed with anger. Dev looked stunned, but Callum remained perfectly still. Years of therapy, of learning to manage his triggers, of Flint's steady presence. All of it held him together. Get out, Callum said quietly. Hastings straightened his coat, composure returning. You'll regret this. My lawyers will bury you. You'll lose everything. The house, your savings, your reputation. And when it's over, I'll still be standing. He turned toward the door. Mr. Hastings, Marin called out. He paused. She held up her phone. We've been recording this conversation. Every word, including the part where you admitted knowledge of David Mercer and didn't deny the conspiracy. Hastings' face went white. And, Dev added, grinning, I already sent copies of decrypted files to 3 separate cloud servers. Even if you somehow destroyed every device in this room, the evidence is out there. Hastings stood frozen, trapped. Then his expression twisted into something ugly, desperation mixed with rage. You have no idea what you've done. This goes beyond me. You think exposing one bank manager changes anything? The system is bigger than all of us. Maybe, Callum said, but it starts with one family, one house, one dog who wouldn't stop digging. Hastings stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The black sedan roared out of the driveway, taillights disappearing into the night. Marin exhaled shakily. Did that just happen? Dev closed his laptop. Oh, it happened, and we have it all recorded. Callum knelt beside Flint, burying his face in the dog's fur. His hands were trembling, adrenaline, anger, relief all crashing together. Flint leaned into him, providing deep pressure, grounding him. The dog's heartbeat was steady, calm. A lifeline. Good boy, Callum whispered. Good boy. The next morning, Callum and Marin met with their lawyer, Elizabeth Park. She reviewed the files, the photographs, the recording of Hastings' midnight visit. Her expression shifted from skepticism to astonishment. "This is extraordinary," she said. "We have everything. Financial records, photographic evidence, a recorded confession. Mr. Reid, you've built a case that most prosecutors would kill for. So we can stop the foreclosure?" Marin asked. "Stop it? We can reverse it and file criminal charges against Hastings, Trent, and anyone else involved." Park leaned forward. "But I need to warn you, this will get ugly. They'll fight back. Hard." "Let them," Callum said. The legal battle took 6 weeks. Hastings hired a team of corporate lawyers who tried to suppress the evidence, discredit David Mercer, and paint Callum as a desperate man fabricating a conspiracy. But the files didn't lie. The photographs didn't lie. And when other families came forward, people who'd lost their homes under identical circumstances, the case became undeniable. The judge ruled in Callum's favor. The foreclosure was voided. Hastings was arrested. Trent Development's assets were frozen, and an investigation was launched into the bank's practices going back a decade. On the courthouse steps, reporters surrounded Callum and Marin. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. But Callum only had eyes for Flint, sitting calmly beside him, tail wagging. "Mr. Reid, how does it feel to win?" A reporter asked. Callum smiled, one hand resting on Flint's head. "It feels like coming home." That evening, the Reid family sat on their front porch, the porch they'd almost lost. Isla played in the yard while Flint dozed in the fading sunlight. Marin leaned against Callum's shoulder. "We did it," she whispered. "Flint did it," Callum corrected. "He wouldn't let go, wouldn't stop searching. He saved us." Flint's ear twitched. The dog opened one eye, looked at Callum, then went back to sleep. A loyal companion, a trained detective, a hero in fur. Justice had been served, and the Reid family was finally, truly home. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales of loyalty, courage, and the unbreakable bond between veterans and their four-legged heroes.